Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Aditya here. In the previous session, we covered EC2 basics, right? And in this session, we will cover hands-on part of the previous session. So whatever we discussed there, we will see the hands-on part here. And this is very high level overview of EC2. Do a very high level EC2 configuration. Okay, so in this session, we are going to launch an EC2 instance and configure different options like operating system and storage networking. And also we'll navigate through different states of EC2 instances like starting, stopping and terminating. So we'll see all those in this session. Without further ado, we'll dive into this session. So first log into your AWS account and after that go to your EC2 page. So I'm opening my EC2 page and the EC2 dashboard will look like this, right? And here if you observe, you have resource section and launch an instance section. Different sections here. Here we are interested in a launch instance section. Okay, so click on this button, launch instance, and once you click on the launch instance button, you will get this page. Launch an instance page. Here you have some info like Amazon is to allow you to create virtual machines or instances that run on AWS cloud. Okay, so we have already discussed about the theory part in the previous session, right? So I'm only showing hands-on here. Now, first thing you have to give is name of your server. So I am going to give the server name is just Aditya server. Okay, and you can give any additional tags if you need, and you can add additional tags and which resource type you want to attach the tags, whether to a volume or instance or network. So this and all we will navigate through later. As of now, ignore this. So I am removing whatever I added now. Just keep only name. Okay. So just give the name. Test Aditya server. And the next section is application and OS images, right? Where you have to select AMIs. AMIs are nothing but Amazon Mission Images. So in simple terms, you have to select your OS. You can see you have multiple options like Linux, OS, Ubuntu, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, right? You have multiple options. In those, I'm selecting Linux. Here in the below, in the Linux, you have to select multiple AMI versions. We'll have multiple versions, and I'm going to select one which is free tier eligible. So this is free tier eligible. That's why I'm selecting Amazon Linux 2023 kernel 6.1 AMI. You can choose 6.12 also, your wish. Okay, so I'm choosing this, and below you have architecture, and here this is our username of our instance. Okay, now below you have to select the instance type. So instance type where you are selecting your RAM and memory. So if it is a micro means it's a very smaller one. You have small, you have flexi large, and you have M7i flexi large also. So you have multiple options to select these instance types. Okay, so here I am selecting free tier eligible instance type T3.micro where it have only 2 CPUs and 1 GB memory. And here it will show you how much it costs based on the instance type, right? For example, if it is an Linux on-demand instance type, the base pricing is 0.0104 USD per hour. But since we are in free tier, it is free tier eligible, we will get some hours free running this instance. So that's why during this course whatever I am showing, right, you just execute and terminate immediately once the session completes. Don't leave them running. If you leave them running you will incur cost. Here I'm selecting t3.micro instance type. That means I'm selected RAM and CPU, right? Above we selected AMI. AMI is nothing but you selected your OS. Okay. So next you need to create a key pair. So you need this key pair to log into your EC2 instance, either through SSH or using PuTTY, right? In that case, you can use this key pair to SSH into your EC2 instance. So for that, click on this create new key pair button and here give your key pair name. So I'm giving the same server name here, test Aditya server key pair, and here you can select different keypad types. We have two different RSA and ED25519. So I am selecting RSA, and you have private key format also, whether you want in .pem format or .ppk format. So I am selecting PEM because I am in Windows 11, but if you are below Windows 8, right, if you are in Windows 8 or Windows 7, in that case select PPK, where you can have to use putty utility to SSH into your EC2 instances. But above Windows 8, right, Windows 10, Windows 11 has a direct functionality, and click on this create keypad button, and this will create an .pem file, and keep that file handy whenever you want to SSH into your EC2 instance. Okay, so we created our PEM file, and moving on to the next section, that is network settings. In this network settings, I'm not going to touch anything because here we're going to cover only high level details, right? So here you have one VPC, and we will discuss about these things in detail in the later sessions. And we have subnet, and here we are saying enable for the public IP. So whatever the IP which going to create for this particular server or EC2, it is going to contain a public IP, so you can access it publicly. Okay, and firewall groups. So as we discussed in the theory part, right, firewalls or security groups we can configure. This is where you can configure your firewalls. So for every EC2 instance, you have to create a security group, or multiple security groups also possible, and this security group will act as your security guard to your EC2 instance, who can access it, and who can send requests into it, and who can read requests out of it. It's like traffic, to whom we can send the traffic and to whom we can block the traffic. In the same way, we can whom we can receive the traffic, or whom we can block the traffic. That kind of security will be added by the firewalls, and here by default launch wizard 2 security group will be created. I'm not going to touch anything because this is a default security group it's going to be created for us. And here I'm going to add allow HTTP traffic from the internet, since we have to access our EC2 instance using public IP. So that's the reason I'm using HTTP traffic, and I'm not turning HTTPS traffic. Okay, and I am allowing SSH traffic also. These two I am allowing from anywhere. So that means if somebody knows your IP address, public IP address, they can able to access your EC2 instance from anywhere. Okay, this is risky, but for this particular session I'm doing, and after that I will terminate this instance anyway. And now moving on to the storage. So as we discussed earlier, we have to specify storage, right? Here we are specifying storage. So here you have multiple options. I'm going to select I'm going to select GB2, since which is free tier eligible. That's why I'm selecting it, and which will have 8 GB of memory. Okay, so you can store up to 8 GB of memory in the CBS. So whatever files you are generating in your EC2 instance will be stored here. So that's like your hard drive. And click on this as advanced button, and here, right, in the advanced button, we are not going to edit anything, but I want to show you one thing here is delete on termination, which is done on yes. Means if you delete your EC2 instance, this EBS volume also deleted. Okay, so that's the reason I'm using this delete on termination. Otherwise, your data will be stored in EBS storage, and you will get charged for that. So always keep in mind you enable this flag for this particular hands-on. Okay, and if you want your data in EBS, then you can mark it as no, even if your instance got terminated. Okay, so we selected storage, and you have multiple advanced details here. So we are not going through all these details now, but in future we will go through. But I'm going till down. So at the down, right, we have place where you can add scripts. That is called user data script. So as we discussed in our theory section, this is where you can provide your user data, and this script will be executed in your EC2 instance during the boot, right? When your EC2 instance is booting up, if you want to execute any set of commands, you can execute here. Now I'm going to add few commands. So these are the commands, and I will provide these commands in the description of our video, so you can take and execute. So yeah, so here we are doing is we are updating the current configurations, and after that we are installing HTTPD web server. Okay, this is a web server, and we are starting it and we are enabling it, and which will create a file called index.html in this particular location, and we are just changing that file like this, hi from the current host name. So it will show you the IP address of the current machine. So that's the reason I have written this. So if we access this web server, then we will know the host name of that web server. So these are the commands you don't need to learn, or don't need to learn about this yum and systemctl regarding these things. If you know other web servers, you can use those web server commands also. So this is for example I'm showing. Okay, so this is how we configured, and in the summary section you can able to see we are launching one instance. So here you can launch multiple instances, 3 4 5, right? You can launch a number of instances as you need, but remember, if you launch multiple instances, you will incur more cost. So if you are learning, always launch only one instance and terminate it once you complete your learning part. Okay. Here you have multiple options. So if I click on the software image, right, it will go to our OS part, virtual server, which will go to our instance type, which is nothing but RAM part, security group part, and storage part, right? Click here and wow, review all your details, whether you have provided proper details or not, and after that click on launch instance button. So this will launch your EC2 instance. To launch your EC2 instance, it will take some time, so we need to wait for that time. So after some time, if you click on this instance tab, you can able to see there is an instance Aditya test server is in running state. So initially it will be in initiating state, and after that it will go to pending state, and after that it will come to running state. Look, even though it's still state is running, the status check still in initialization. It is currently in initializing. And if you want more details about this particular server, if you click on this instance ID, it will open another page that is called instance summary page for this particular instance, where you can able to find the instance ID, a unique identifier to identify this instance in AWS, and also we will have a public IPv4 address. So this is the address where you can access your web server in your Chrome browser or any other browser. So you can use this web server or address to access your web server. You have your private IPv4 address also. This address you can't access publicly, but within AWS, if you have any other service want to access your EC2 instance, then those services can use this private addresses to access your EC2 instance. You have your host name. So this is our host name, right? We'll see whether our web server printing this host name or not. Since in our user data we mentioned to print the host name, so we'll see that. So we have so many details here, and all these details will go to in the later sessions in depth, but in this session we are covering only high level overview. Okay, so here you have details and the status and alerts, monitoring, security. So we'll see the security part also. So by default a security group created, and you have inbound rules. Inbound is nothing but what are the traffic coming into the server. So here we're allowing both HTTP and SSH, right? SSH port is 80, HTTP port is 22. Those ports related traffic from any source. Similarly, outbound rules means from the server that we can send traffic all to all ports, to everyone. So that's the security rules we have given. So it's like this server can be accessed by anyone, and the server send response to anyone. So that is what we configured here, and yeah, that's pretty much about the details part, and I'm not going to cover anything else now. We will see only one thing. Since we launched our web server and our EC2 instance where you are running your web server commands, we'll see whether we are able to access that web server or not. For that, copy this public IPv4 address and paste in here, right? And see whether you can able to access our web server. Don't forget to make it HTTP, because we are not allowing HTTPS, right? So we are only allowing HTTP traffic. So keep in mind to remove that S. And now see hi from IP and this is the IP of, this is the host name we are printing. And if you go to the instance details and check, the same IP is here. So it is properly printing the IP of your EC2 instance, and you are able to access your EC2 instance. So here you launched an EC2 instance with multiple configurations what we have discussed in our theory sessions, and we can able to access that EC2 instance by using public IP address. So fascinating, right? Within seconds you launched a server, you configured it, you deployed a web server, and you can able to access that web server. Now we'll navigate through different instance states. So here if I click on this instance state drop down, you will have multiple options. You can stop, you can reboot, you can terminate. So if I say reboot, right, reboot in the sense it won't terminate your instance, but it will reboot your system. And stop, it will stop your instance and you can restart your instance. And terminate will remove your instance from the list. So these are the different instance types. Now I am going to show you stop instance. So click on stop instance and you will get this pop-up. It will show you what are the associated resources with our EC2 also. So you have volume ID associated, right? EBS volume. Yeah. And yeah, so if I click on stop here, it will stop my instance. You can see, right? The instance state is updating to stopping. And if I go and I try to access this IP address now, you won't get the page or website loaded because you have stopped your EC2 instance and it is loading like infinity and it will say site can't be reached. So going back to this page and the another instance state, that is terminate. So you can restart. Look, you have a start instance option enabled now. You can restart it and finally you can terminate the instance. So I prefer termination of instance once you completed your landing part. I click on terminate an instance, but in the future sessions we are going to discuss about these EC2 instance. I am keeping it in stopped instance state, but if you are not going to touch immediately, right, don't keep it in stopped state, just terminate the instance so that you don't incur more bill in the AWS. Okay, and that's it about this high level overview of launching an EC2 instance and different configuration options. And if this helped, hit a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.